Coming up on First at 5, city leaders are tackling the rising gun violence, how the city plans to reduce these numbers, and how the community is reacting to their efforts.
Bringing awareness to violence in teen relationships, what one local organization does to help survivors of abuse.
Plus, the UF weather team is tracking the next cold front that will bring with it some much cooler temperatures. Your forecast is coming up, but First at 5 starts right now.
First at 5, from the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications. You're watching WUFT News.
Local residents are voicing outrage at the city's efforts, or lack thereof, to reduce gun violence at a commission meeting today. I'm Caitlyn Schiffer.
And I'm Jacob Sedesse. WUFT's Juan Chaoui is live at Gainesville City Hall, where community leaders discussed how best to handle this increase.
The Gainesville City Commission is allocating millions of dollars towards their efforts to reduce gun violence in the city. During a commission meeting held earlier today, neighbors expressed outrage at the city's initiatives. The Gainesville Police Department during the meeting highlighted increases in both gun-related injuries and homicides. There was also a presentation that showed previously passed motions by the City Commission to show the progress they've made. After the facts were presented, neighbors shared their thoughts on the city's priorities.
How fast would you all find a solution to gun violence if the target of that gun violence were students at UF? You see, this isn't a question around resources. It's a question around priorities.
The stakeholders aren't actually the people that are impacted by gun violence. The fact that those of us who are impacted, I lost 4 people close to me last year. How many people did you lose?
Others spoke about their own personal experiences with gun violence and recommended other initiatives. As discussions around this complex topic continue, it is unclear whether the community will agree with all the initiatives put forward by the City Commission. For more information regarding the increase in gun violence and a community response, visit our website, WUFT.org. Live from City Hall, Juan Chaoui, WUFT News.
A Live Oak woman is behind bars facing charges of abusing a 10-month-old baby she was supposed to be caring for. I've got a breakdown of what she's accused of doing and heard from investigators on why they feel it's one of the worst cases they've ever seen. And I do have to warn you, this is a tough story to stomach. When Suwannee County fire crews responded to reports of a 10-month-old baby having a seizure back in January, they found the child in a condition they couldn't believe.
It's definitely one of the worst cases I've ever worked. The injuries to this baby were extensive.
So extensive, the child had to be treated at Wolfson's Children's Hospital in Jacksonville. Investigators found the child with bruises, and medical examination revealed broken bones and cannabis in its system. Sheriff's officials interviewed those close to the child. They say its condition has improved enough for release from the hospital, but mouth injuries will make it hard for the child to eat. Physical abuse left its spine fractured and leg injured from being yanked. The child has hematomas and even has gone blind. Medical examiners say the child will suffer long-term disabilities from the treatment.
They compared it to somebody being in a violent car crash.
And officials say the woman responsible is 39-year-old Heather Hogan, who they've arrested on charges of aggravated child abuse and neglect. She's being held in the Suwannee County Jail with a bond of $600,000. DCF officials can't say much, but they're trying to find somewhere for the baby to go. Now, the sheriff's office post about the case has drawn outrage, with some neighbors saying jail is just too light a punishment. Caitlyn?
An Alachua County man is wanted for sexual battery charges against a minor. Officials share offering a reward to anyone who knows the location of Sammy Oates IV. He is charged with 2 counts of sexual battery on a person less than 12 years old. Alachua County Sheriff's Office says you can remain anonymous if you contact Alachua County Crime Stoppers at 352-372-STOP or by contacting ACSO Investigator Christie at 352-359-5095.
Well, a former public school worker from Georgetown is behind bars after deputies say he sexually assaulted a child. Putnam County Sheriff's officials say 82-year-old Gilberto del Castillo Espana inappropriately touched and assaulted a child on multiple occasions, threatening to kill the child's family if they spoke out. He's the retired former Putnam County School District ESOL coordinator. His parents called the office after they noticed their child was acting strangely. Espana is being held without bond in the Putnam County Jail, and officials say they believe Espana could have more victims, and they encourage them to reach out.
Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody teamed up with leaders in Marion County to discuss new statistics in drug overdoses and new tools to fight the state's fentanyl crisis. Moody stood along city commissioners and other prominent members like Ocala's new mayor at the Marion County Sheriff's Office earlier today. She credits law enforcement agencies like the Ocala Police Department for addressing the crisis head-on. In today's press conferences, Moody reported numbers from state health officials that say deaths from fentanyl and opioids had a small decrease. The overall death rate declined 3% in 2022. Moody says initiatives like first responders' immediate access to Narcan, which can aid in overdoses, helped in the decline.
I'm so proud of law enforcement who has stepped up efforts to interdict fentanyl. As you know, fentanyl is extraordinarily lethal. We are seeing it at rates that we have never seen before in our country. It has allowed us, these interdiction efforts, to what seems to temporarily buck the national trend.
The CDC reported in 2022 more than 100,000 Americans died from a drug-related overdose. Since 2019, this figure has increased 60% of number of deaths nationwide.
Well, after a refreshing streak of warm days around north central Florida, the cold had to come back to remind us that spring isn't here just yet. UF forecaster AG Cornell's here to tell us how long this cooler weather is going to last. AG?
So we're looking at a cool down definitely this weekend, but it's not here yet. Right now we can see cloudy skies outside the University of Florida. Our temperatures are very mild, sitting right at about 70 degrees. When we take a look at north central Florida, we can see that trend continuing. We're right at 70 degrees, right about there across the board. And that's actually really close to our average for this time of year, 71 degrees. Now, as we take a look at our evening planner, we'll see that cool down that comes after sunset. Cooling down, if you want to head out at 10 p.m., you might want to consider bringing a jacket. Coming up next, we'll take a look at a chilly weekend, rain coming Saturday, and sunny skies next week.
Well, as many spend February celebrating the love in their lives, it's also Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. WUFT's Cassie DesVergers is here, and she heard from a local organization about what they do for survivors of abuse. Cassie?
In 2010, Congress deemed February as Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. This annual month-long effort focuses on advocacy and education to stop dating abuse before it starts. 1 in 3. That's how many teenagers will experience violence at the hands of their partner, according to Aid to Victims of Domestic Abuse.
It is the most prevalent violence that youth have.
Peaceful Paths Director of Education and Youth Services, Crystal Sorrow, says it's important to be mindful of any warning signs.
These are the first times a lot of people are going into relationships, and abuse isn't just about physical violence, it's about power and control.
Peaceful Paths aims to provide support and services to survivors. Lead Violence Prevention Coordinator Hannah Thompson has had first-hand experience seeing the organization's work in action.
Having a teacher say, you know, you changed that student's life, or they were in an abusive relationship and you were the only person that was able to reach them.
The work extends beyond teens.
Instances where I'm teaching a high schooler and we don't know that their parent is actually experiencing domestic violence, and their parent says, oh my gosh, you know, I wish I had this and I'm so happy my child does.
Educating teens is what this organization believes will break the cycle of abuse. Peaceful Paths mention that these are oftentimes the teens' first relationships, and that abuse can be more about power and control. If you or anyone you know is experiencing abuse, you're encouraged to contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That number is 800-799-7233. Live in the studio, Cassie DesVergers, WUFT News.
A deadly shooting leaves 1 dead and almost 24 injured after a Super Bowl celebration. Who is responsible, and law enforcement's investigation into the tragedy? Coming up on First at 5.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Investigators are still trying to piece together what led to the shooting spree at the Chiefs' Super Bowl victory rally in Kansas City. As Jay Gray tells us, police are still finding more people who were hurt in the attack.
I can see people jumping the fence.
Investigators now say the gunshots that ripped through a crowd of hundreds of thousands at the Chiefs' Super Bowl parade in Kansas City were not fired by terrorist or violent extremists.
This appeared to be a dispute between several people that ended in gunfire.
Gunfire that killed 43-year-old Lisa Lopez Galvan, a popular local radio host, and her family says a huge Chiefs fan. Police confirming her death and upping the number of wounded or injured to 22.
I didn't even know I was shot.
Emily Tavis, her husband Jacob Gooch Sr., and his 13-year-old son all hit during the shooting spree. None of their wounds life-threatening.
I mean, it's just senseless. It's senseless. You're not going to make sense of it.
Still, investigators are trying to piece together how and why it happened. 3 suspects are in custody. 2, we've learned, are juveniles. The third, an adult tackled during the chaos by fans.
It was just a reaction. When I was taking him down, I seen the weapon fall to the ground. So I knew right then and there, I'm like, okay, he's got one weapon, but this one's on the ground. He may have another one. I need to take him to the ground, and I need to keep him on the ground.
Police, joined by federal agents now, continuing what they say will be a long and detailed investigation. Jay Gray, NBC News, Kansas City.
And the UF community paused to remember another mass shooting tragedy. Wednesday marked 6 years since the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting in Parkland. Locals gathered at the UF Plaza of the Americas to honor the lives lost in 2018. 17 students and staff members died in the massacre, and many are still mourning. Organizers for anti-gun violence group March for Our Lives Gainesville hosted the event. It included a candle lighting, speeches from friends and family of the victims, and a moment of silence.
As firefighters in Marion County remember one of their own, they're asking neighbors to be mindful of funeral procession for engineer Chuck Westphal. He passed away earlier this month on February 4th. Funeral services will begin at 10 a.m. Saturday at the church at the Springs and will end at the Highlands Memorial Park Cemetery just before 1. He will be escorted from Tampa to the church and is expected to arrive around 7:30. Fire officials say they encourage residents to line the streets with American flags to pay tribute to Westphal.
I'm tracking our next storm system as it heads our way this week and what it means for your weekend after the break.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Now, last weekend we saw lots of sun, clouds, or suns, clear skies, and all that sort of wonderful weather, and this weekend is anything but. We're looking at rain both Saturday and Sunday, and a significant cool down on both days from what we've seen this week. Temperatures are going to be 63 degrees on Saturday, down to 50 on Sunday. It's going to be very chilly and very wet. If you're heading out to the Daytona 500 this weekend, make sure that you've got a jacket and also a rain jacket. We're going to be looking at temperatures in the high 50s out there and definitely some rain going on during the event. So make sure you're dressed appropriately. Now we can see on our radar some clouds coming across the sky. They're coming towards Jacksonville, and they are a precursor of what is to come because we have our next storm system coming through this weekend. We're going to start seeing some rain early Saturday morning, and it's just going to continue all the way through Saturday. You can see that our cold front has already passed through by Saturday night, but that's not stopping the rain. We're going to keep seeing rain all the way through Sunday. Sunday afternoon, more rain, and it's only really going to start clearing up Sunday evening. Now, if you're wondering how much rain that actually accounts to, we're looking at about 1.5 inches here in Gainesville. It's going to be a little bit more as you go further south, 1.75 inches down in Reddick, and 2 inches in the Villages. So we're looking at a fair bit, and it's also going to be pretty chilly over here in north central Florida. We're looking at temperatures across the board in the mid-50s, 54 degrees in Gainesville, 54 as well in Cedar Key, a little bit warmer on the coast over there. So you might notice that our temperatures are pretty different than they have been last week. We were approaching the record last week, 84 degrees, only 55 this week. Now our average is about 70, so we're definitely looking at both extremes. Now, as we take a look at our 7-day outlook, we'll see some potential for fog tomorrow morning. So when you're heading out, make sure you be careful. Saturday and Sunday are going to be those stormy days, stormy and cold. But as we go into the beginning of next week, we're definitely going to warm up some and even be pretty nice. 68 degrees on Tuesday, 71 on Wednesday. Nice sunny for next weekend.
Coming up in sports, both the Gators softball team and lacrosse team dominated their competition last night. We will take a deep dive into what went down in these Valentine's Day matchups and how Florida forgot to bring the roses and chocolate. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Welcome to sports. I'm Miguel Molina. The day after Valentine's Day can mean a lot of things, but for Gator sports fans, today means we are one step closer to March Madness. WUFT's Simmons is live at the O'Connell Center to preview tonight's Gators women's basketball game against Ole Miss. Jesse, what are we looking at tonight?
After back-to-back SEC wins on the road, Florida Gators women's basketball team is looking to come back and bring that energy tonight at home against Ole Miss. Florida struggled against the Rebels on the road. Despite a 30-point game from senior guard Leilani Correa, the Gators couldn't get things going for most of the game as Ole Miss stretched a 20-point lead. But this time, Florida's motto is revenge. Backed by a home crowd and 5 different Gators collecting double digits in scoring against Mississippi State, Florida sits at 13-9 with March right around the corner, and a big matchup against 16-7 Ole Miss to hopefully pad their resume. We're just a few minutes away from tonight's tip-off at 6 o'clock here in the O'Connell Center. I'm Jesse Simmons, WUFT News.
Thanks, Jesse. Although it was Valentine's Day yesterday, the Gators softball team showed no love toward their opponents last night. After beating Jacksonville 10-0 on Tuesday, Florida dominated the Dolphins once again in their home opener. Pitcher Kagan Rothrock took care of business, striking out 9 while giving up just 1 run. It was a 2-1 game at the top of the 5th, but the bottom of the inning was no bed of roses for JU as the Gators scored 6 runs behind a Corby Otis home run. Instead of sealing things off with a letter and a kiss, Jocelyn Erickson's RBI sent Jacksonville home with no Valentine and gave Florida a 9-1 win. The Gators will next play at home in the Bubbly Invitational on Friday against Georgia Southern at 3 p.m. Gators lacrosse enjoyed plenty of hugs and smiles on Valentine's Day. As well, they hosted the Scottish national team at home in an exhibition game. Florida got straight to it in the first half, scoring 15 goals and held Scotland to a goose egg, with grad student Sarah Falk collecting a team-high 4 goals. The Gators continued its dominance, giving up just 2 scores and played well on defense to finish off the Scottish 22-2. The Orange and Blue next play on Saturday when they travel to Chapel Hill to take on number 6 North Carolina. Winning back-to-back national championships in college sports, that hardly ever happens. Winning back-to-back national championships in college golf, it's nearly impossible as only 3 teams have done it since 1974. However, one Gator is looking to make this improbability a reality. While most college freshmen are just trying to get by, Jack Turner is full steam ahead on the links. Turner, a freshman on the Gators men's golf team, practices 7 days a week in hopes to fill the big shoes left by his predecessors, the 2023 golf national champions.
Obviously, that comes with a lot of pressure and high expectations. Last year, we lost 3 of our best players, which obviously isn't great, but I knew coming in as a freshman I can make a difference on this team, being those spots being open now. So I just came in with the mindset of to work hard and do my best.
His hard work has paid off as he is placed as high as tied 2nd individually at the Georgetown Intercollegiate and recently helped his team win the CBEST Invitational on January 30th. But despite his individual success, the Orange and Blue did not have a great first half to their season as they lost all of their match play events in the fall. However, Turner remains optimistic heading into this week's Gators Invitational.
Yeah, I think our team is just starting to hit stride. Last year when they won the Natty, in the beginning, in the fall, they did not have a great fall either. And they started off their spring semester with a win at the CBEST and a win at the Gator. So I think if we can just keep that intensity and go take care of business at home this week and keep building off that, I think a national championship is not out of our sights.
Turner and the rest of the Gators men's golf team will all compete in the Gator Invitational this Friday. First tee time is slated for 7:50 a.m. at the Mark Bostic Golf Course. One final note, local high school playoff basketball continues tonight. Oak Hall versus Quincy Monroe at 6, Gainesville takes on Oak Leaf at 7, and Buchholz will host Forest at 7:30.
And I do actually have something to say about sports today. The EA Sports Game Development Company, officials for them announced that the College Football 25 game is coming out, and that's set to have the Gators in it. So if you are a gamer, stay tuned.
Finally from us, you'd be the GOAT, get it, if you could help this animal find her way home.
Citrus County residents, be on the lookout. Animal control officers say they caught this adorable black and white goat on Sunwood Point in Homosassa. They were hoping to get her home in time for Valentine's Day dinner. Now, if this is your goat or your friend's goat, they ask you to call the sheriff's office so they can get her back to where she belongs. Regardless, we just wanted an excuse to show you this picture. AG, you like it? You like goats?
I do.
Now, you like cold weather?
I do as well. So when we take a final look at our 7-day outlook, we're looking at those storms Saturday and Sunday, lots of rain, but as we get into next week, we're looking at some beautiful days, 4 beautiful days in a row with temperatures in the 60s.
Well, that's all we have. BBC News America is next, and the PBS News Hour is coming up at 7.
Have a good night.